At this point, a lesser man might make a joke about the title of this film. Look, on many days I am a lesser man, but I gotta say, I got no jokes lined up right now, but I mean, I would have maybe chosen a different title, just me personally.
Maybe we should respond like animals.
How would you feel if in your entire life it never mattered what you thought? When we've liberated ourselves, we will have to ask ourselves who we are.
And today we have women talking. And with that, I have almost seen every Best Picture nominee for 2022. So I know I keep saying I'm reaching the end of the 2022 reviews. I'm sorely mistaken. This will not be the last. I have other ones that are, I think, queued up in the works. Not to mention, after seeing this, I gotta still watch All Quiet on the Western Front. Finally, I don't know what took me so long, finally I sat down with the amigos and we watched Women Talking. So Women Talking is the newest directorial film, and I think probably the one that has the most critical acclaim right now, by Sarah Polley, Canadian, so I'm not quite too sure, but Sarah here, she directed it. Funny enough, this gal's actually acted and written, I think, more than she's directed. She's directed films before this, nothing I'm too familiar with, but she's acted in films that I do know about. Writer, director, actor, actress, however you want to say it. If you saw the trailer for this, you know that it is like a packed, like a star-studded cast, like some big names, some of which that I always love to see. I love Frances McDormand, I love Rooney Mara, and I love seeing, I don't know what it is about her, I love Jessie Buckley. They're in this. Many more, some familiar faces, some unfamiliar faces. It's a star-packed cast, and it's like an Academy Award nominee, and there's just some actors, that's a few of them that are personal favorites of mine. I don't think this is a spoiler, because it's just like, I mean, it doesn't really tell you what happens per se, but literally the plot is that, like, from the trailer, it looks like, you know, we're back in time, and it looks like this group of women, are in this like religious commune outside of regular society of sorts. They're you know, almost like the Amish in a way. I mean, they kind of have like, it's definitely a certain aesthetic time period. They're very like, you know, make our own clothes, have our own livestock, you know, pray to our God, and keep faith as like a core principle of our beliefs and all that. And then it comes out that the men, or some of the men, most of the men, maybe all the men, but some men that are in that group with them have been systematically drugging and raping and beating some of these women for a while, and then it comes out, and then they're like taken away to be held accountable in jail. But then there's like bail being posted, and it's like, oh, the guys were taken away, but now we found out there's no guys right now, no men. They're gonna be back in 2 days. What are we gonna do? And per the trailer, the moral quandary, as it were, is, all right, well, we either stay here and do nothing. We just forgive them and move on and hope that this doesn't happen again. And the other two options, which are what a lot of the women are kind of leaning towards, is either we stay here and we fight, you know, we punish, we get vengeance, we maim, kill, and then we stay here, or we leave. And that's where a lot of the problem, that's where these women are talking. That's what this film is, very heavily dialogue driven. Now it's just some meetings and a character study, everybody's different perspectives on what we should do, whatever we gotta decide, we gotta be a group when we do it, and then just what are we gonna do? That's literally what it is. The dark part about all this is that it comes to light in the film. I don't think it's a spoiler per se, but it's important for the conversation around the film. It is revealed that this is well, I mean, you see it in the trailer. There's like a truck driving around. This takes place in 2010. This isn't a period piece. This movie takes place in 2010. It's just like an Amish or religious sect, like a commune, just out here in basically modern day. I mean, yeah, 13 years ago, but no, these issues discussed in this film are painfully prevalent and have been for as long as we can remember, and still are to this day. And what I did like a lot about this movie, because we're getting right into it, is this movie discusses the issue from all sides, and also is just good representation and is just showing you the plight of these people. It's funny, I don't know what it was. I didn't think I was going to like the movie going into it. I didn't dislike the idea of it. It just didn't, the trailer didn't grab me. It didn't feel very appealing. I didn't think the trailer was that exciting. I cried like 4 or 5 times in this movie. This movie had some very powerful things to say and some killer performances. There's going to be some award nominations, I think, already for, you know, just the performances in this film. But my God, tough stuff, rough stuff, but it's stuff that we need to talk about and we need to hear, and I wish that it would stop happening, but I don't think that it ever really will. The cinematography is nice. They chose to go with, it's not quite black and white, but as you can probably see from the trailer, very, very, very muted color palette, like, in which kind of matches the tone of the film. It's dreary, it's just kind of like dreary, dark, gray, depressing, matches the overall vibe, for lack of a better term, the mental state that these women are in, that we are now in as we go along with them. They're nursing each other's wounds. We're trying to be there to listen, and we want to help. I just want to help these gals. Like, you want to help nurse the wounds along with them. Performances are definitely the strongest part of this. There's a few, I mean, like, look, you made me cry. You made me cry. And oh my God, like, all these, it's just all these, the few of the standouts for me, but just it's very, very, very well acted, and I love how each one of these, it's almost like the whole group of women that are left kind of relegate what's going to be decided to, I think, 3 or 4 main families, but I guess the quote-unquote elders or some of the people that were victimized the most or just have more kind of say in the town are going to kind of decide how things go forward from here. And it is very interesting to see how some of them approach it from, like, you know, logical perspectives, emotional perspectives. You have one who just wants to, like, punish and hurt and murder those responsible. You have one that says, you know, oh, well, we have to forgive because that is the core fundamental principle of our faith. You have someone who's like, well, we should just leave and not look back. And it's like, well, if we're leaving, look at what we're leaving behind, who we're leaving behind, you know, is that worth it? And some of them are just, you know, should we keep our head down? Should we do this and that? All questions that people today still ask. I am very lucky. I have never been the victim of sexual assault or abuse. Have I been emotionally manipulated and abused? Sure, but like, my plight is piddle compared to all the plight of these women. I do know what it's like to be gaslit. I know it's a term that gets tossed around a lot, but like, I've grown and I've learned. I understand what it's like for somebody to convince you that you're the problem or you're a bad guy, and to the point where you start to believe that, and that's what you operate under, is like your primary moral principle. So a lot of these conversations do resonate, and of course, even more importantly, so I've had very close friends who have been the victims of, you know, I mean, inherently as women, they're like in a more dangerous perspective, and oftentimes are more at risk for this kind of shit. I've known family, I've known friends that have been the victims of abuse, both emotional, physical, sexual assault. It happens all too commonly. So again, my heart goes out. I go immediately into guardian and problem solution oriented mode, and all the plights of these women that are going on in this, it's almost like a stage play as it's being discussed. Like, and nobody's really out of pocket. Like, I get where everybody's coming from, and most of the arguments make sense, but it was interesting to see how this community, like how each one of them kind of, you know, some of them agreed, some of them disagreed. That's why they're having these conversations, and it's just kind of really what society says as well. Like, it's even discussed, like, the men behaving the way that they're behaving or doing the things they've done, like the men in our society now. Are they guilty? Are they innocent? Are they a product of this society that has been created and is perpetuated? You know, obviously the women are the victims in this situation, but even the women are like, are men also victims in this? Which overall, I think mostly like, no, like this, it's just, society is what it is, but it's about how you're raised and then how you choose to make your own. I'm not, a lot of gray, sticky water to get into it. The point is, this movie speaks on some very important issues, and that's, I think, a core fundamental principle of this movie's success and greatness. Was this a phenomenal film? I wouldn't say it was. I would say support it. I'd say it's worth a watch. It's a very emotional, well acted drama. No fancy cinematography, no fancy camera work or anything like that. The strength of this film is based purely on the actors on screen, the emotions they bring forward, their stories, and their experience. And that's engaging enough to be a great film. And that's engaging enough where I think this deserves to be nominated at the very least. I don't know if I'd want it to win for Academy Award, you know, for Best Picture, but I get it. It makes complete sense. I would give Women Talking like a solid 4 out of 5. I was tempted to give it a high 4, but I think a 4 out of 5 is fair. I think for the most part, this film accomplishes what it sets out to do. Personal enjoyment. I mean, enjoy is kind of a rough word to use for this movie about people that are suffering, but I definitely enjoyed the experience emotionally speaking. I think that it's definitely it can be a rough watch, not all because of what's shown on screen, though there is some thematic material shown on screen obviously, but not overtly. The movie doesn't like focus on the men on bring them on to the screen. It focuses on the aftermath, what these people have done, and like we're talking about them. But you know, for anybody who gives a shit about the Bechdel test, this film will pass it with flying colors. Some of the dialogue in moments here and there, I mean, you can make an argument saying, as I did at one point, that it might be a little bit cyclical, because some of it gets like 90% of the dialogue is great, 10% of it I was just like, it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, but upon talking it out with some friends, it contextualized the rougher edges and it made more sense. Again, as always, I'm keeping it vague. Long and the short of it is that Women Talking was really good. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again. I enjoyed it more than I thought that I would. It's unfortunate that this shit still exists and is still ongoing, is as bad of an issue as it has been, and the fact that there's like not even you can't just get a answer. Like you can't be like, okay, someone did a bad thing to this woman, guilty, done. The fact that there has to be all this line of questioning of, oh, but who's really in the wrong? Were they making it up? Like, did it actually happen? Okay, well, you know, how bad was it? How bad should the punishment even be? Like, it's a wild world we live in. At least it leaves you with the ideology and the messaging that even in this dark, terrible world where people are capable of doing these terrible things to each other, that there are people that are still trying to survive, that still pull through, are there to help and support each other and try to find a better way forward. So at the end of this kind of melancholy story, at the end of this dilemma, you know, there's a good message to be had there. That was my just general vague thoughts on Women Talking. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. And goodbye, travelers.